Hi, and welcome to this week's video blog. I'm Sarah Hammerker, and I'm glad you joined me. Today I want to talk about comparison and favorites. And this is a tricky topic because no one wants to think that we have a favorite in our kids. But the truth of the matter is we kind of do. And in today's video blog, I'm going to explain a little bit what I mean and how we can avoid the really bad favoritism. Patterns of favoritism can become ingrained in the family fabric, but the fluidity of family life may help to balance out those preferences. So here's what I mean by everyone has a favorite. We don't love our children the same way. Sometimes we feel like we have a closer connection at times to kids at various stages of their life. Also, if one kid reminds us of ourselves when we were a kid, we can get a favorite that way. But we need to be really careful that we acknowledge that there are times when we feel favoritism toward one kid or another. Just sometimes recognizing that truth can help us be on guard against letting it get to be a place where a kid doesn't feel loved because they're not the favorite. Know your prejudices. Sometimes if you come from a culture that has put boys ahead of girls, you may favor your son ahead of your daughter. Know where you may be prejudiced, and this can be for a father whose son follows in his footsteps in a sport, but his second son doesn't. This could be a mother who did ballet as a child, but her daughter is a tomboy. So she may favor the daughter who does ballet. Just know where you may have a prejudice and therefore may favor one child over another. Acknowledge that sometimes we just do have favoritism. We just do, and just kind of acknowledge and move on. Don't compare, like have a comparison video. Don't say, I wish you would be more like X, because even if we don't say that's a favorite, it can be perceived if you're constantly comparing one child to another. Watch our praise. Overall, praise should be used sparingly with kids, but sometimes if we praise one child over another, they can perceive that as favoritism. Recognize our differences. Kids are different. I often tell parents, and I do this myself, to think about why we love each child. It's going to be different. We love them all because they're our kids, but I love my oldest daughter for her heart of service. I love my youngest daughter for the way that she creates these magical stories and stuff. In her quiet ways. I love one of my sons because he is so enthusiastic. When we told him that he was old enough now to mow the grass, he was like, yes, that is just so fun. I love my youngest son because of the way that he views the world. He has kind of, in my opinion, a little bit of a unique way, and the way that he talks about being kind to new kids that come into his classroom, that I don't think he really realizes how kind that is. I love it for his little heart. So I tell my kids that. I tell them, yes, I love you because you're my son and you're my daughter and you're in our family, but I also tell them why I love that particular child. Emphasize each one's talents. Not all kids are created equal, and they're going to have different talents, and kind of recognizing so that can be helpful. So for example, one of my sons says, well, I can't do X like such and such. I say, yeah, that's true, but you do Y very well. And helping them recognize that they don't have to compare, that they have their own set of talents. Taking turns. You don't have to do everything with the same kid, so you kind of rotate. Who takes them places, who does things with them, that kind of thing. Attention doesn't have to be equal. And this can be very hard for us to understand. And I think we need to meet the needs of the child. For example, sometimes one of our kids is going to need more of our attention than others for whatever reason. Sometimes, but make sure you rotate that among your kids, because there are going to be different areas of their life, different times of their life where they need a little more parental attention than other kids in the family. Make sure that you cut down on the negativity. I cannot emphasize this enough. We are way too quick to overlook negativity, thinking, oh, it's just kids, they're just squabbling, it doesn't matter. It does matter. Keep negativity at bay. Think about, help kids to see each other's point of view. They may think that they're their favorite, but often if you talk to people who were labeled favorites in their family, life wasn't all rosy for them. So help kids to see that there's a lot of different points of view in a family. Talk behind their backs for our kids. And by that I mean, make sure that you are not talking about them in front of them, talking about another sibling in front. Like, for example, when my kids bring report cards home, I don't read their grades out for everyone to hear. I will talk to that child individually, and I will leave it up to that child whether they want to share their report card with everyone or not. And if there's an issue we need to talk about, I don't bring it up in front of the whole family. I take that one particular child aside in a private place to talk about it. That works for discipline as well. Nobody needs to see all that stuff. And by keeping it hidden and giving children the opportunity to share what they want to share, you help them not feel like they're being unfavored or favored, depending on what you're talking about. Even positive things, I let them share those on their own. Know our own reactions. How we react to our kids when they tell us things and when we learn things can be good. So in other words, discussing grades at the table, maybe not so hot if you haven't talked about it earlier. And if we're going to get upset about something, try to control our reaction so that the kid doesn't think that they're being the unfavored one by how we react. And then focus on one. We often forget that we shouldn't lump our kids together. We do need to help them see that we see them as individuals. I hope this has been helpful to help you not compare and have favorites. And I hope you'll join me next week.